Hey, and welcome back to this teaching and learning video in the basics track. Today we're focused on class issues. And class issues can range obviously from the discipline that you're teaching in. They're going to vary from person to person, whether it's a DE, face-to-face, or ISP class. But I'm giving you some foundation regardless of modality that I think you might appreciate in your teaching journey. One, regardless of modality, I feel is behavior. Behavior can be a real concern. I find it's the biggest concern for me teaching in DE. And DE, sometimes I think students think of their classes as they would like a social media site like Facebook, where you could be maybe a little aggressive or be more vitriolic in your discourse. It's important to set your expectations in terms of behavior, regardless if you're teaching a DE class, a face-to-face class, and so forth. So behavior, I think, is something we all need to be focused on in our classes. Safety is another issue. In 2019, I know we're having some conversations about classroom safety. I won't say a lot about this, but there's more to come. And it's not, by the way, just face-to-face classes. You might be surprised. In DE classes, because of this last issue of behavior, I feel like sometimes our instructors are put in positions where they're dealing with potentially hostile or aggressive discourse in terms of their students. So we want to give you all the resources you can use as a faculty member. So be on the lookout for more conversations about both student behavior and campus safety in the near future. Physical or DE space. So if you're teaching in a physical classroom, and actually this one is a good example of that. I can move around a little bit, but in this particular classroom, I've actually very recently, let's take the camera. The other camera moved with it. And so I'm teaching in this classroom, and I've discovered occasionally there are some behavior issues. So as you can see, this is one of our new classrooms, and it's laid out in such a way that you have desks that are mobile and chairs. This part of it I really love. The desks over here, we've had some conversations about faculty, like in a math class, how well those work in terms of note taking. And then the space over here, it's pretty cool in terms of just, like hanging out and having a conversation for a meeting. But one concern could be that if you come into this space, will the students see this sort of as a sober academic classroom arena? Not that you have to be, stuffy in your classes, but for me, that is potentially one concern with the classroom spaces. Do I have all the tools I need? Are the desks the right way? What about the whiteboards? Can the students see the whiteboards very clearly as you're writing on them? So I think the physical space that you have is important, and then the DE space is important. So if you're teaching a DE class and you have a really disorganized Canvas space, that's going to translate maybe to some issues with your students not being able to understand things. So having all the resources you need physically or virtually, regardless of your classroom, I think is very important. I put interruptions on here, and by this I mean something that would cause you to stop the flow of your class. So if you're teaching a face-to-face class and we have a snow day, clearly you might have to catch up on that work after we return. If it's a DE class, maybe not. If there's an interruption in terms of our Canvas provider and it's legit, and Treva will always connect with you and tell you if it's a legitimate outage, obviously that interruption should be considered when you're thinking about student work and due dates and times. And then also in an ISP class, really watch those ISP videos, because Shane, Tori, and others will tell you if there's a lockdown at an institution where we're teaching, maybe for a week or even a month, students may not have access to their books or materials. So the interruptions are something that if they're legit, we have to really take account of that. If it's an interruption that happens in a student's life that's legitimate, that's a medical emergency, I've had a few in my many years of teaching, then certainly you could consider that and give that student an incomplete. In some cases, even a W is appropriate. So more conversations about that later. And then lastly, the learning space. Regardless of whether you're teaching in a face-to-face class like this or teaching DE in Canvas, you want to make sure that the space is conducive to what you're trying to teach your students and what the students are learning in that classroom. So just a few issues to address here very briefly, but please watch the additional videos and resources that we have on these topics. And as always, I would say, good luck with your journey here at the college as you try to hone in on your craft and be a better faculty member here at LTCC.